It's an austere business district by day that transforms into a bubbling, thriving party hub at night. It sprawls out from the foot of one of South Africa's most iconic mountains, Table Mountain, and it hugs the sea. Cape Town city centre can be exhilarating, it can be exciting, it can be a place where you really enjoy yourself. It can also be very dangerous. We know extortion accusations have circled the Cape Town city centre and further afield for decades. The stories go along the lines of groups, mobs of mainly men who go to venues and enforce what they call security on these establishments. Sometimes some of the stories go along the lines of they've brought in dogs, they've brought in baseball bats. So extortion accusations have circled the city centre. We know there are very real dangers here. And overt crimes have happened here. Now, let's focus on a 750-metre or so stretch that cuts through the city. It's a pedestrian popular area, a stroll of about 8 minutes. And this little patch of sort of party hub / business district really shows what's lurking beneath the veneer of Cape Town's publicly presented front. So let's start with Beer House. This establishment, a pub, a bright yellow establishment that looks happy, exciting, opened about 11 years ago. Recently, though, it was announced that Beer House is closing its doors. The reason? Well, that word crops up again here, extortion. On the 20th of June 2015, Joe Kanyona, a father and a doorman who worked at Beer House, was stabbed to death there. Okay, I'm going to take you on a little sidebar quickly. Fast forward 5 years, and in January 2020, a man by the name of Timothy Lotter, who had been providing security to Beer House, was murdered in another suburb in Cape Town. Let's go back to the Joe Kanyona case. Despite nearly a decade having lapsed, Joe Kanyona's murderer, it appears, has not been arrested. Police haven't made any announcements to that effect. And recently, the owner of Beer House, Randolph Jorberg, has been outspoken about extortion. He alleges extortion has affected his business, his staff, and of course, Beer House. At the end of July 2024, he announced that Beer House was closing its doors. Ahead of that announcement, he gave an interview to the South African investigative program Carte Blanche. That episode aired once Jorberg was out the country. This was a security measure, a safety measure for him. And this really highlights the seriousness of what we're talking about. I've already mentioned 2 murders that appear to be connected to this arena of happenings. So Jorberg said he did not accept the purported services offered to him by a group of individuals. Okay, so this can be read as Jorberg declining purported security from a group. What happened next, according to Jorberg, is that at some point there was a scuffle inside Beer House involving individuals linked to what had previously happened. And in the process, Joe Kanyona, the man who went on to be murdered later, was roughed up. Jorberg said a case was opened with police in relation to what happened, the scuffle, the roughing up. Things turned sinister.
We were a hit from the first day on, but also on the second or third day of trade, you know, like a little shadow entered the light. The so-called underworld arrived at Beer House, and I was just, you know, greeted by a guy with very wide shoulders, a very firm handshake. Everybody told me, even before opening, people had warned me about, but if you open, you'll have to deal with those guys. I didn't buy in, and from that very first visit, you know, the nature of visits changed. It wasn't the original guy anymore. It was now, you know, his man on the street.
The accusations or claims have been made that Joe Kanyona was murdered because Beer House, in other words, Jorberg, did not accept purported security from a specific grouping. Several years ago, I sat through part of a court case involving 3 individuals who were arrested in connection with the Kanyona murder. They weren't accused of murdering him. However, they were accused of being part of a conspiracy that saw him killed. During that court case, police claimed that at least one of the 3 accused was linked to a gang the young, gifted, sexy bastards who operated in the suburb of Woodstock, which is kind of just outside Cape Town city centre. In August 2015, in a court case relating to Joe Kanyona's murder, it emerged that a suspect claimed that a man named Ashley was tasked with murdering this doorman, and that others were to form kind of a shield around them so that the stabbing could take place, but others around wouldn't see. Now, it's important to note that this murder happened in Long Street on a busy evening. There would have been lots of pedestrians, there would have been lots of partygoers. This suggests and points to how ugly and brazen this crime really is. The Ashley who was referenced in that court case does not appear to have been arrested, and it's not clear what has happened to him, if he does indeed exist. Okay, so nearly a decade after Joe Kanyona's murder, in July 2024, it was announced that Beer House is closing its door because of suspicions and accusations bleeding into extortion, a major crime currently plaguing South Africa. And while extortion is so massive and so prevalent, this is really what Randolph Joubert has claimed and said is what underpins Joe Kanyona's murder. So if you're at the entrance of Beer House and you look out in front of you and you see Table Mountain to your left, and you take a walk of about 600 meters that way, straight along Long Street that runs into Close Street, you'll find another venue. That venue is called a Yep Yep. There's a Cape Town branch and there's another one in Gauteng. The Yep Yep brand has before been rocked by violence. In November 2022, one of its partners, DJ Somebody, whose real name is Opa Sofoka, was murdered in Gauteng. He was shot dead. Then in 2023, accusations arose from one of the partners of Yep Yep at the time, Kagiso Setsetse. He basically claimed that alleged 28's gang boss, Ralph Stanfield, and his wife, Nicole Johnson, were trying to muscle in and dominate the establishment. They were involved in operating the business as Johnson was its general manager. But according to Setsetse, things went differently. He made these claims that they were overstepping the mark. Stanfield and Johnson made counterclaims of their own. And at the center of this is a Yep Yep Cape Town. So this whole 2023 claim-counterclaim saga, which also involved accusations that at some point gangsters stormed the venue when patrons were inside it, basically culminated in a Yep Yep Cape Town closing its doors. This venue reopened in September 2023 following a legal settlement which saw Kagiso Setsetse selling his stake in the business. That same month, alleged 28's gang boss Ralph Stanfield and his wife Nicole Johnson were arrested in a case involving accusations of fraud and car theft. That is a growing case. They're still in custody as I speak now in August 2024. But it's not the only case they are accused in. They face other criminal charges in another matter relating to allegations of police officers being involved in getting firearm licenses to individuals not meant to have them. In other words, suspicions go along the lines of gangsters. So, if you stand outside Beer House and you turn to your left, a Yep Yep is about 600 meters that way, towards Table Mountain. If you walk from that same spot outside Beer House, about 280 meters to your right, you'll find the Western Cape High Court. It's tucked just behind Beer House. At the moment, there are several individuals who are on trial in this court. These individuals, or their names, have previously been linked to nightclub security operations circling around Cape Town. And while they aren't on trial for crimes relating to that at the moment, they are on trial for crimes relating to things including murder. In one of the trials, one of the accused is a man from Cape Town, Nafiz Modak. So Nafiz Modak was previously acquitted in a case in which Lieutenant Colonel Schalkenier was the investigating officer. That case related to extortion-style crimes and linked to the city centre. Now, in the bail application phase of that case in which Nafiz Modak was acquitted, Lieutenant Colonel Schalkenier testified, and one of the things he said was that, "I can foresee that more murders will happen." So that is roughly what he said in court, in a witness stand, on public record. He was correct because he went on to be murdered in September 2020, one of several individuals who were assassinated. In September 2020, the same month that Lieutenant Schalkenier was assassinated, the police minister at the time, South Africa's police minister, visited Beer House, where he announced new plans to tackle and take on extortion. The next evening, after police minister and several other cops visited Beer House, so too did Nafees Modak and several of his associates. They claimed, or they said, they were there to hand out food to the needy. A crew from Deutsche Welle caught all this on camera.
Moments later, there is suddenly a lot of movement in Long Street. First of all, a Porsche pulls up, carrying one of Modak's business associates.
So right now various cars showed up here with a lot of strong people, obviously his bodyguards, and now Mr. Modak also showed up.
They're scenes reminiscent of a Hollywood film. Surrounded by his entourage, Nafees Modak briefly observes the food distribution. Then he asks the beer house staff whether it's okay for them to distribute food at the door. We attempt to make contact.
Why did you decide to give food out right here?
From today and before lockdown and few months back. That's all.
But why
Any
right?
other comment you can speak to him.
But why right in front
Because
here?
I had to meet him here for something. You can confirm with him. He's a manager. Thank you.
So clientele, patrons, party lovers, people enjoying Cape Town city centre at night, police officers, South Africa's police minister at the time, individuals, suspects who have become criminal accused have all somehow visited Beer House, which according to its owner is now shutting because of issues linked to extortion, the very problem police were there to announce they were trying to tackle. And that's in 2020. That's 4 years ago. What does all this mean? Let's look at South Africa and zoom in. Okay. Let's get to Cape Town. Let's zoom in further to a single street in one city in the country. In roughly 750 meters, there has been a murder. There have undoubtedly been several other crimes. There have been accusations of extortion, of mobs forcing purported security or services on others. And in the same street, just up the road, there are individuals who are on trial for various crimes. And some of those individuals, while they don't actively stand accused of crimes directly related to what we've just chatted about, they do stand accused of crimes which edge on the periphery of this serious issue.